For we know that if the tent, which is our earthly home, is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this tent we groan, longing to put on our heavenly dwelling, if indeed by putting it on we may not be found naked. For while we are still in this tent, we groan, being burdened. Not that we would be unclothed, but that we would be further clothed, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. If my understanding is correct, our body and soul is what Paul calls our tent and our earthly home. I say both because the soul materialized when the body was formed and God breathed the breath of life into it. So the soul is only necessary while the body is alive. I know, that's a strange statement to make, but we'll come back to it. Why a tent? Because it is a temporary abode. In keeping with this, and in regard to those who walked in faith, Hebrews tells us these all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, were assured of them, embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For those who say such things declare plainly that they seek a homeland. And truly, if they had called to mind that country from which they had come out, they would have had opportunity to return. But now they desire a better, that is, a heavenly country. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. Based on these passages, is it any wonder that Paul mentioned groaning and a desire to put on the heavenly dwelling? That is, what is mortal being swallowed up by life? Have you ever felt that way? In keeping with this, look at what Paul follows with in 2 Corinthians 5. So we are always of good courage. We know that while we are at home in the body, we are away from the Lord, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Yes, we are of good courage, and we would rather be away from the body and at home with the Lord. So whether we are at home or away, we make it our aim to please him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive what is due for what he has done in the body, whether good or evil. The truth is, I think most of us have an intuition of life, so down deep, we are somewhat restless as we go through our journey. Sometimes along the way, we ask questions, seeking, wondering, wanting something more than what this fleshly realm gives. What is life? First and foremost, I believe it is love, out of which flows joy and peace when we are patient, kind, good, faithful, gentle, and have self-control. What else would it be? Might this be why Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness"? Wouldn't his righteousness incorporate the fruit of the Spirit, since God is Spirit? Didn't Paul say that the kingdom of God is not eating and drinking, but righteousness first, followed by peace and joy in the Holy Spirit? Returning to 2 Corinthians 5, we read, not that we would be unclothed, but that we would be further clothed, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. Not unclothed, but further clothed. No longer naked because our mortality and its fragile and deceptive nature is swallowed up by life. This brings us to the following. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. For this corruptible must put on incorruption, and this mortal must put on immortality. So when this corruptible has put on incorruption, and this mortal has put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where's your sting? O Hades, where is your victory? Here Paul speaks of resurrection, where what is naked or mortal must put on immortality or be clothed. Doesn't this agree with 2 Corinthians 5? As you see, I've inserted tent and building from God to help make the point. Now, what does this have to do with sowing and reaping? Consider what we read just a few verses before 1 Corinthians 15:51. So is it with the resurrection of the dead? What is sown is perishable. What is raised is imperishable. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown a natural body. It is raised a spiritual body. If there is a natural body, there is also a spiritual body. Thus it is written, the first man Adam became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. But it is not the spiritual that is first, but the natural, and then the spiritual. It's not surprising that the context of these passages involves resurrection, for the entire 15th chapter is about this subject. If I understand what Paul is saying, all of us come into this world a natural body, but we leave it as a spiritual body. In Hebrews 12:9, Paul calls God the Father of spirits. In Job 32:8, we're told, there is a spirit in man, and the breath of the Almighty gives him understanding. In Ecclesiastes 12:7, we're told, then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Now look at what Paul says next in 1 Corinthians 15. The first man was from the earth, a man of dust. The second man is from heaven. As was the man of dust, so also are those who are of the dust. And as is the man of heaven, so also are those who are of heaven. Just as we have borne the image of the man of dust, we shall also bear the image of the man of heaven. I tell you this, brothers, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. The perishable cannot inherit the imperishable. The first man was from the earth, a man of dust. This is Adam, denoting the body and soul, the natural body, which is perishable. The second man is from heaven. This is Christ, denoting the spirit, the spiritual body, which is imperishable. If flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom, which speaks of this tent or earthly home and incorporates the body and soul, then that is why Paul said it must be destroyed. Be sure to join me for the next study as we continue our look into resurrection and the fear of death.